The sister. Smile follows Rose Cotter, a psychiatrist who begins to experience terrifying visions after witnessing the traumatic suicide of a patient. The curse makes her see people with eerie, twisted smiles right before violent events occur. Rose struggles to hold on to her sanity while no one believes what she's going through. After a long, exhausting day, she gets into her car, trying to process everything that's happening. She takes a deep breath, seeking a moment of calm inside the vehicle. The silence brings a false sense of safety. Suddenly, someone opens the back door and approaches. There's a knock on the driver's window. Startled, Rose turns quickly. It's her sister, Holly, who seems worried about her. But when Rose looks again, something horrifying happens. Holly's neck starts to stretch unnaturally. Her head droops forward, hanging loosely, her face twisting into a wide, disturbing grin, and her bulging eyes lock onto Rose through the glass. Like anyone would, Rose screams in absolute terror as the vision vanishes as quickly as it appeared. The Tall Man. It shows Jay being hunted by a supernatural entity that can take the form of any human being. It walks slowly but never stops, and only the victim can see it. Jay locks herself inside her house, completely terrified, while her friends try to help her. She's alone with every door and window bolted shut. Someone knocks on the front door and she hears her friends' voices calling out for her. Jay hesitates, frozen in fear, but recognizes them. When she finally opens the door, her friends rush in, worried and confused. She tries to explain what's going on, but they're skeptical, even seeing the panic written all over her face. Suddenly, there's another knock. Jay begs them not to open it, but they ignore her warning and unlock the door. It's Yara. Everyone relaxes for a split second. Then, without warning, a towering figure over 2 meters tall, with hollow eyes, emerges from the dark hallway, walking straight toward Jay. Jay screams in sheer horror and bolts through the house as her friends look around, confused, unable to see anything at all.
See? Everything's okay.
Under the sheet. Ju-on. The grudge follows a curse that haunts anyone who enters a house where brutal murders occurred, with the vengeful spirits of Kayako and her son Toshio tormenting their victims in horrifying ways. Katsuya is lying in bed inside the cursed room. She turns on the TV to distract herself, but the image begins to flicker and glitch inexplicably. Suddenly, a teddy bear appears in her hand. Startled, she throws it away, not understanding where it came from. Then the bedsheet starts to move by itself. Something is writhing underneath its shape, unclear, the motion erratic and disturbing. Katsuya freezes in fear, watching the blanket twist on its own. Then comes the nightmare moment. Kayako's ghost emerges from under the covers. The Mommy. Evil Dead Rise follows a family tormented after discovering a cursed book that unleashes demons. Ellie, the mother, becomes possessed and transforms into a demonic creature hunting her own children inside their apartment. Cassie, the youngest daughter, witnesses her mother's horrifying transformation and tries to protect herself by locking the door. She's terrified, but still clings to hope that somewhere deep down, her real mother is still there. Cassie approaches the door and looks through the peephole. On the other side is Ellie, but something's terribly wrong. Her skin is pale, her eyes different, blood around her mouth, the clear signs of possession.
Just open up now, like a good girl. Do it for Mom and Dad.
The demonic mother speaks in a distorted, chilling voice, asking Cassie to open the door like a good girl. Cassie hesitates, torn between fear and love. In a mix of shock and innocence, she unlocks the door and she doesn't even have time to react. Ellie lunges forward, grabs her by the neck, and starts choking her with brutal strength. Thankfully, her brother and aunt arrive just in time to save her. Stay in bed. The visit follows two siblings who go to spend time with their grandparents, whom they've never met but soon notice disturbing behavior at night. Becca decides to set up a camera in the living room to record what happens after 9:30 p.m., the time when their grandparents forbid them from leaving their rooms. The camera captures the dark living room. Grandma steps out and starts walking strangely, her movements erratic and uncoordinated. She opens and closes a door repeatedly for no apparent reason, her motions unpredictable and unsettling. Then she disappears into the darkness. For a few seconds, there's only silence. Without warning, her face appears right in front of the camera, filling the frame as she lets out a horrifying growl. She grabs the camera and drops it to the floor. The image becomes darker as Grandma walks around, picks up a knife in the kitchen, and heads toward the kids' bedroom. The clown and the projector. The projector scene in It is one of the film's most unforgettable moments. It starts in Bill's basement, where the Losers Club is trying to figure out the pattern behind Derry's disappearances. Using an old projector, they go through slides of the town map, but then something strange starts happening.
What happened? What's going on? I got it. Guys.
The slides begin to flip on their own. Among the usual family pictures, a disturbing sequence appears. Bill's mother, her face hidden behind her hair. With each slide, the hair shifts, slowly revealing the distorted, smiling face of Pennywise. The kids realize what's happening, and panic fills the room as the projector seems to come alive. Suddenly, his face fills the entire wall, frozen in a terrifying grin. The kids try to turn the projector off, but it falls over and the image warps on the wall. Then the impossible happens. Pennywise crawls out of the projection, growing into a gigantic form that fills the basement. The kids scream and run in terror, especially Stanley, who freezes in fear. Pennywise lunges toward them but vanishes seconds later, leaving the group in complete shock. Hide and seek. Back to the visit, the hide-and-seek scene under the house is equally terrifying and unforgettable. Becca and Tyler decide to play in the narrow, dark crawl space beneath the house. Man, kids really have some ideas, huh? The cramped tunnels and dim lighting already make the place feel wrong. Tension builds when someone else suddenly crawls in fast, erratic, and terrifying. The figure starts chasing the kids like a wild animal. The found footage style makes it even scarier. The shaky camera only catches glimpses of her closing in, and the kids' screams blend with her maniacal laughter. As she crawls after them, she repeats over and over, "I'm going to get you," sounding more like a threat than a game. At the climax, Becca and Tyler finally crawl out to safety, only to realize it was their grandmother all along. She comes out smiling, pretending it was all a joke, but to the kids, it's pure horror. To top it off, as she stands up, her dress lifts, exposing her backside, a grotesque and unsettling detail that shows just how unhinged she's become. The sound of terror. Back to Smile Rose is still being tormented. Alone in her apartment, she puts on her headphones and starts listening to the recording of the patient who killed herself in front of her. Laura's voice describes the terrifying presence she felt, the sinister smile everywhere, the constant sense of being followed. As the tension rises, the camera stays on Rose, capturing her fear and growing panic. Every second feels heavier, every word in the recording more real. Then, suddenly, the entity appears a woman with an unnaturally wide, horrific grin. Moments later, Rob bursts in, finding her terrified and shaking as she points the weapon at him, unable to tell what's real anymore. He tries to calm her down, but the fear and confusion consuming Rose don't fade. The final ritual. In Hereditary, the climax is one of the film's most disturbing moments. Peter wakes up in the dark, confused and scared. He doesn't notice it yet, but we can see something in the background. He gets up and walks through the house, only to find his father's body completely charred. He's horrified by what he sees, but something even worse is lurking. In the background, almost imperceptible, a figure reveals itself. It's Annie, his mother. She's motionless, stuck to the ceiling, watching her son with an empty, inhuman stare. She's possessed by a demon. Soon, Peter notices something at the door. A man, one of the ritual participants, standing there with a macabre smile, as if waiting for something. Peter hears a sound and looks back suddenly. His mother starts chasing him. He runs through the house while Annie pursues him in a supernatural way, scaling walls and moving with grotesque, inhuman motions. The chase ends in the attic. Peter manages to get in and shut the door while his mother bangs her head against it in desperation. With things seemingly under control, Peter notices a swarm of flies, and when he looks down, he sees candles, his photo, and ritual markings. He tries to calm himself, but then hears a strange sound. Peter looks up. There's Annie, still possessed. She uses a piano wire to slowly decay herself as her son watches in absolute shock. Terrified and trying to escape, Peter throws himself out the treehouse window. He lands, motionless, but then stands up. Only now it's no longer Peter. The demon Paimon has finally achieved its goal and now inhabits the boy's body.
Hail Paimon! Hail Paimon!
The deadly closet. In the ring, there's a tense scene where Rachel talks to Katie's mother, Embry, trying to understand what led to the teenager's death. The mother, desperate, looks for answers and asks Rachel if Katie ever shared any secret with her, but Rachel denies knowing anything. The conversation is heavy with anguish and silence as the mother struggles to process the tragedy and find meaning in what happened. In a chilling moment, the mother reveals she found her daughter's body and describes what she saw, Katie's lifeless face.
I saw her face.
The scene then cuts to a flashback of the mother opening the bedroom closet, only to find Katie inside, already dead. The attack on the lake. In the movie Friday the 13th from 1980, after the intense final battle, when Alice decapitates Pamela Voorhees with a machete, she finds a canoe by the shore of Crystal Lake. Exhausted and looking for safety, Alice climbs in and drifts across the calm water. She lies back, closes her eyes, and finally allows herself to rest as the camera shows the vast lake in the soft morning light. The police arrive to rescue her. Everything is calm, and the audience feels like the nightmare might be over. Suddenly, the silence is shattered. A deformed Jason Voorhees bursts out of the lake and grabs Alice, yanking her violently into the water. It's one of the most classic jump scares in cinema. The sequence ends with an abrupt cut. Alice wakes up in a hospital bed, screaming and frantic. It's clear the lake attack was a nightmare or hallucination, but that something deeply wrong still lingers at Crystal Lake. The dog. In the Argentine film When Evil Lurks, the dog scene is one of the cruelest. It happens at the family home where little Vicky sits near the family dog while the adults are distracted, arguing in another room. The camera cuts between the girl's expression and the dog's movements. Suddenly, the dog, possessed by a demonic entity that spreads evil through contact, lunges at Vicky. It grabs the girl's head, drags her under the table, and the camera doesn't show much, making it even more horrifying to imagine. After the attack, the dog runs off. Everyone sprints after it in panic, trying to save the girl, but it's already too late. Anyone who's seen this movie knows that this scene never leaves your mind. The Burial. In Carrie from 1979, after the tragedy at the prom and the bloody revenge, it seems like the story has finally ended. Sue Snell, trying to pay her respects, kneels at Carrie's grave to place flowers. As Sue focuses on the moment, the camera holds on the headstone and everything seems calm. The detail that makes the jump scare even more impressive is that Sissy Spacek, who plays Carrie, actually lay in the grave for the scene, facing real fear and discomfort to be buried alive. Terror in the Depths. The Descent, directed by Neil Marshall, follows a group of friends who set out to explore an unmapped cave system in search of adrenaline and adventure. What starts as an exciting expedition quickly turns into a nightmare when a cave-in blocks the exit, trapping them underground. The true horror begins when they realize they're not alone. In the shadows lurk monstrous creatures known as crawlers. Blind, deformed beings evolved to survive down there, feeding on human flesh. At one point, Sarah and her friends explore a tunnel using a night vision camera. The tension is pure nerve. With a slow move, the camera pans away from one of the women and suddenly reveals right behind her one of the creatures. Vanishes in an instant, leaving everyone in panic, not understanding what's happening. on the stairs. In Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, private detective Milton Arbogast investigates Marion Crane's disappearance and heads to the Bates Motel for answers. He talks with Norman Bates, who tries to be polite but acts oddly, avoiding eye contact and stammering under pressure. Arbogast notices contradictions and suspects Norman is hiding something, especially about his mother, whom he claims is ill and locked in the house next door. He reaches the house and looks around before entering to make sure no one's watching, but something feels close. Determined to speak with her in person, the detective opens the door and starts slowly up the stairs. The house is silent. At first, nothing seems wrong. When he reaches the top and turns, a female figure suddenly bursts from a room. Mrs. Bates, holding a knife. Arbogast, in pure panic, stumbles backward, flailing for balance as he falls down the stairs, blood running down his face. He hits the floor motionless, but the suffering isn't over. The old woman comes down and keeps stabbing him until he dies. This scene, together with the shower murder, is etched into horror history. And at the end comes the big twist. Mrs. Bates was dead all along, and the killer was her son, Norman Bates. The Red Demon. The famous lipstick face demon scare in Insidious happens in broad daylight. While Lorraine calmly talks to her son Josh about a nightmare she had, she says she saw a demonic figure standing near her grandson Dalton's room. The kitchen camera stays on her and the others in a tight shot, in a peaceful space with no heavy score or warning signs. Exactly the opposite of what you expect before a scare. Then out of nowhere, the camera cuts behind Josh, and the demon's face appears practically pressed up against him, creating instant impact. The apparition lasts only a moment, but it's enough to make anyone jump. Right then, everyone realizes something's wrong. They run to Dalton's room and find the boy on the floor and everything destroyed. What's the jump scare that scared you the most in your life? Is it in this video? Drop a comment. Maybe we'll make part 2. There's another great video on the screen. Click and watch. See you there.